That's all I've got for the news. Up next, I'm going to be playing the Jessica Schab interview. What is this all about, you may ask? Well, here it is. Secret American Martian teleportation systems. Yes, you heard it correctly. And the spiritual evolution of humankind. You won't be disappointed. Buckle your safety belts, put your cell on vibrate, grab a glass of wine, and enjoy the interview. Thanks for being with me. I'm Justin Brown, Unified Field Radio, CKDU 88.1 FM. Thanks for being here for another Season 3 episode of the Unified Field, the finale of the year. Stay tuned for Season 4 with a fantastic new guest. UnifiedFieldRadio.com.
The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
Joining us today on the ancient lucky number 13, since our calendar used to go by a 13-moon calendar cycle, episode 13 of the Unified Field and the last episode of the season going into Season 4 is Jessica Schab, also known as Jessica Mystic. She is a young individual who's trying to inspire youth into a new vision of reality in the 21st century. She has a unique knowledge of metaphysics and the paranormal. She's a healer. She's a bit of a light worker, and she puts it like this. She says that she's trying to pave the way to help usher in a new age for the star seeds of the future. She's also, and this is how I discovered her, she is one of the first people, or one of the first interviews ever, actually, that I've ever seen with an individual named Andrew Basiago. And this is the bulk of the interview. This is what I want to talk about, but we're going to explore more of Jessica Schab when she tells us in her own words of where she's come from and who she is, because that's fascinating in itself. But Andrew Basiago, who she calls Andy, is a guy that had come out a few years back. And actually, when I first started doing the radio program, I used to play one segment every episode for the first 3 or 4, Jessica, of your interview. And he's a guy that has come out and had said he was part of a secret government project called Project Pegasus, and where he actually went to a jump room and teleported directly to planet Mars, and now has come out recently saying that part of that same project was a guy named Barry Soetoro, also known as Barak Obama, and another lady who is now the head of DARPA, he said was involved in this, and now he's actually brought in another individual that said was part of the same program, and he's saying the same thing. He doesn't have a lot of credibility in the mainstream just because there's no way to lock up his credentials. There's no way to prove his story. But I'll tell you this, his story is one of the most fantastic ones you'll ever hear, and Jessica was one of the first people to interview him that I had discovered. I want to welcome to Atlantic Canada's only paranormal expanding consciousness new science radio broadcast on the finale of Season 3, the lovely Jessica Schab, also known as Jessica Mystic. Welcome to the show.
Hi, and thank you for having me on this show.
Well, we're really excited that you're here, and it's a special show. I usually save the finale for something both inspiring and entertaining. And the story of Andrew Basiago, I think, is both, and the story of yourself is pretty inspiring. I gave a kind of a brief overview of who you are, Jessica, but in the bio you sent me, and I never brought it up, I never mentioned it, but you said since the age of 16, you started to change the course of your life. Now, what was it about that particular age that kind of shifted you towards searching for answers to the unknown?
It was my sister passing away that really started it, because a lot of the times when somebody passes away, or most of the time, they pass away, they cross over and they go to the other side, and they usually stay there and incarnate. But in this case, actually, she crossed over and she came right back because she was extremely excited about what she had found out about what's happening here on Earth, and that she just had to tell us about it, and that certain members of the family have been called to partake in this shift if you will. And so my dad, who had a stroke at that time, was trying to tell me about this as Melissa came back to him. And I really didn't take him seriously because I thought he was crazy. But little did I know that the universe was conspiring basically to get me to really be aware of something very big and important. And they wouldn't leave me be, basically. I mean, so after my sister started coming through and talking to my dad, then other beings did, and my dad said, they want to talk to you. They have a message for you, and I was not interested because at that time I just really wanted to fit in and be normal. And to embrace something like this, would kind of take you away from that. And so anyway, I would go to bookstores or libraries, and books would fall at my feet that were the exact things that my dad was trying to tell me about. And if I would go for walks, people would come up to me constantly, people I would know and people I didn't know, and they would talk to me about the same things or try to give me the same kind of books, to the point that I just decided to surrender to it. And when I did, I just had a major paradigm shift, and I just saw things very differently. There was no way you could avoid the truth of what's happening in this world right now, the amount of the conspiracy and the deception that we're facing, but also the reason why it's happening, and who we really are and what this is about, and to partake in changing this world for the better. Now, of course, it's important for us to be aware first before you can do anything, right? So assessing the situation and understanding, wow, these beings have gone through a lot of work to make us be in fear, but really because they themselves are in huge insecurity as well, which are mirroring our own insecurities. Right. And our own self-destructive nature, that we have created this self-fulfilling prophecy in that way. So when I started to really surrender to this, I felt very compelled to find other people. I was sure there must have been others like this out in the world that were having similar kind of experiences, and I really wanted to find them and let them know that they weren't alone, and to no longer hide who they were and what they knew. That it was time for the world to know about them, the starseeds and light workers. And when I started to contact them, I found them in very strange ways. Like, I would be looking for them online, and so many times I just had absolutely no success at all. And then one night I fell asleep in front of the computer, and I woke up, and there in front of me was find other light workers and starseeds kind of a thing, and all these emails. And so I wrote every single one of them, and I knew each one of them in as their souls, or their somehow we had this affinity, this special connection, and I just knew what I needed to say to them. It was almost like it was downloaded to me, and it was quite incredible. And my story is very long. I don't want to go into too much detail because we only have an hour, and there's a lot of things that you want to cover. I've shared it in a lot of my other videos as well, but I just have the way I've come to this has been mainly just ideas that come to me, and I challenged myself on them, and I decided to test them out. For example, certain things where if, how you're able to be lucid in a dream, and when you're aware of it, you're able to change the outcome. I had a nightmare of a scary monster chasing me, and I became lucid in the dream. And I said, by the way, you're not real. And poof, that monster disappeared, and I looked at this place I was in, and I thought, tropical paradise, and there I was standing in a tropical paradise. And I woke the next day thinking about how I was reading a book about dolphins the night before, and it was saying that dolphins use 100% of their brain while awake and 50% while they're sleeping, and humans use less than 7%. Well, we do use 100, but we're only conscious of less than 7%, and 100 while we're sleeping. So it made me wonder and think, well, does that mean dolphins consider humans to be asleep? And if we were aware of this in waking life, could we change things in that way or make things happen? So I decided to test that out, and I went to the calendar and wrote down April 14th, somehow I'd be in a tropical paradise, and it would all be paid for, and the thought of the dolphins would lead me to the dolphins. And went to set the next day, and my friend said, Jess, you'd be really good working on a cruise ship. And I said, I've looked in on that, and I know it's not possible because I didn't finish high school, and you need to have a secondary education. And then it popped into my head, Jess, you're dreaming. You can do whatever you want. And I was like, oh, yeah. And so I went for this interview. I had this really intimidating woman from Harvard University interview me. And anyways, I researched the company 3 different ways: guest aspect, crew aspect, and business aspect. So I knew more about the company than she did.
Wow.
And then all an interview really is just 20 different ways why you want to work for their company, rather than saying, oh, people, person, hard worker, fast learner. I just looked her square in the eye and said, have more action than talk. Put me on that ship and I'll show you what I can do.
Right.
And I did arrive exactly April 14, and my job was to be the master of ceremonies, hosting, coordinating, arranging all the activities and events, and being paid to explore the mine ruins and swim with dolphins. And I share this story because I challenge people to do the same thing within their life, to take back the power in the moment and realize that there's a lot they can do. I've looked at other stories and accounts of this where people have figured this out. There's one particular one that comes to mind of a lady in South America who was approached by a notorious a burglar and serial killer. So he would rob and then kill his victims. And she knew that's who he was, and she knew that she was old and frail, and she didn't stand a chance against him physically. And so she's like, but no, it's not going to end this way. This is not an acceptable reality. And she's just so determined and so strong in that he had a heart attack in that moment.
Good Lord.
And he ended up returning all of his stolen bounty to everybody.
Wow.
He had taken it from. And so just things like that where we start to take back our power and realize what is happening here. It's almost like breaking the spell. I have found that, and I've shared other stories of experiences that I've had where
I'm going to stop you there, Jessica. I'm
Okay.
just going to stop you there because we're kind of going all over the place here. I want to kind of backtrack a little bit, and I'm going to come back to creating reality. First of all, did you really did actually work for a cruise company and you were the master of ceremonies? This wasn't part of... Oh, wow. Good. Congratulations. Yeah. Good for you. I want to go back to the beginning here. You're saying that when your sister passed, and first of all, I'm deeply sympathetic and sorry for your loss. I can understand what it's like to lose a family member, especially an immediate family member, so I can understand that, and my condolences. But I do understand also how it can change your life and your necessity to answer unanswerable questions, or at least probe questions that most people are afraid to ask. Now, what I find interesting about your story is that your sister didn't just come back to you. She came back to your father as well, who was...
Correct.
It would seem he was some kind of medium. And I want you maybe to talk about him for a second, but did anyone else in the family experience this visitation by your sister?
Just my father.
And he has a history of... Does he have a history of precognition or mediumship?
Yeah, my dad, I didn't know at the time, but prior he has had a lot of experience and contact. He's a contactee as well with UFOs. He was been taken up on ships numerous times. He's been able to see angels surrounding him in the parking lot. They had come to him in the hospital. He did have his third eye open. He was, I would call, a super channel because there was nothing and no one that he couldn't channel. I think it had something to do with him having some previous contact experience when he was a young boy, them giving him something special to allow him to do this. But, I mean, a lot of the times people who have paranormal experiences, it does run in the family, I find. On my mom's side, they were very psychic. And on my father's side, my dad's dad was telekinetic.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, this is, again, classic signs that, they have been having abduction experiences. Now, abduction doesn't necessarily mean to be scary and disrespected or anything like that. A lot of the times we go on the ship has guests and things like that, and they're actually quite pleasant, but sometimes it's found out about we have some kind of psychic spy activity happening with us through the government, I'm guessing, and they try to intercept that experience and wipe the memory of it and create an unpleasant one instead. So if we think about it, we get traumatized, or we just don't even want to go there, kind of a thing. It's a very clever psychological approach.
And I understand that there are technologies available right now to certain individuals of prestige and power, let's say, that can access frequency altering technology, even microwave technology that can alter brainwave frequency. I know that for a fact. But what I want to ask you, and I want to ask you this with the utmost respect to both you and your family, and a lot of my listeners are probably going to be wondering the same question. I mean, your story is unique, yes, but it's not that unique. There is a common ground, common thread with your story. But have you and your father in specific, has he ever been medically diagnosed with any kind of mental illness or?
No.
No.
No, he was very sound. He just understood things, and he would be able to channel things. Like, he wouldn't even lose, a lot of people when they channel these kind of beings, their voice would change and stuff like that. It would just kind of download to his consciousness, and he would just start, sharing something from the Platings or the Sirians or the Andromedans, or
okay.
He was just this walking satellite. I don't know how to explain it, but no, there's never been anything of him being diagnosed that I know of.
Okay, I appreciate the answer.
But I've talked to my mom about it a lot, too, because, of course, when I was having my experiences, I really wanted to understand what was happening here. Right.
Now, I don't know if you know the answer to this question that I'm going to ask at this point, but has your father, I mean, obviously you've heard the stories, what has happened to him in his encounters with extraterrestrials, and have you ever been or have considered yourself to have been an abductee yourself?
My father's experiences have been pretty pleasant from what he has told me about. Hasn't had really disturbing experiences. I think that he would tell me things when he was a kid where there were beings that would try to harm him or kill him because they might have known who he was and what he was here to do. And this is something that I found is quite normal that is done to people when it is expected. And I think this ties also into Andrew Basiago and his work, that there are government people who are able to know about certain individuals in the future, and so they do, send people back or beings back to cause interference or prevent them from doing it, very much like Terminator movies in a sense as well, but truth is stranger than fiction. And, okay, so that was one question. The other question, I've had experiences as well with abductions, not like my dad, and not unpleasant. They've been quite pleasant as well. I've been a guest on the ships, basically, and treated with a lot of respect and honor, kind of a thing. Very much like Avatar. I feel that this is the case for a lot of people here on Earth, particularly starseeds and people who are able to remember that we really are, these beings are really watching through our eyes and learning what it means to be human through us. Mm-hmm. And we're constantly in the nighttime in negotiations with them and trying to figure out what kind of experiences we need to have next. What do we need to do next in order to shape and mold us into the people we need to be to do what we came here to do, to successfully shift with the least amount of intensity. I really don't think it has to get worse before it gets better. And I feel that what the work that we are doing in these states, we have been averting a lot of horrible things, global disasters from happening.
Could you do me this favor? Could you just maybe describe how what the process was in your abduction? Was it a physical thing? Was it a dream state thing? And was it the same case for your father's experiences?
My dad, I don't know. I can't say. For me, it felt dreamlike. Mm-hmm. I don't think it was physical. How do I explain it? I feel that we all are doing this, and I think only some people can remember it. And as time goes by, we're all going to be able to remember these experiences from what I understand and what they shared with me on the ship. And you're just in your light body, or you astral travel in a sense there. And like I said, you're in a meeting and a council. And you're surrounded by this bluish kind of a light. And the ships, I remember how they run as well. They do run by our thoughts. And sometimes even our emotions and our heart-based. Well, the ones that I worked with, at least. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely.
I just rarely have talked about this in public. I've never had this asked before, so.
Oh, cool. I'm glad that I'm here to do that. I like to ask the interesting questions. You know, it's not that...
You're getting me out of my repetition loop that I usually go into because to try to explain to people what it is that I do and what I'm about. I found those were the best ways to do it, but this is far more exciting.
Cool.
For me.
Well, the repetitious part might come here soon, but you know what? The technology of thought-controlled devices isn't that far off. It's already being developed, and implants are already successfully on the market for individuals like paraplegics and quadriplegics who are immobilized to have these implants put in and installed, in essence, in order for them to communicate with computer programs and communicate with us at large. So it's not that far off. I can understand that. Are you saying that, with your experience with these, what you call extraterrestrials, do you consider them extraterrestrials, or do you consider it like a sort of heaven in the biblical sense, or is it just another level of existence before possibly some kind of great connection to source?
I consider them future versions of ourselves, actually. I really feel like when we were taught about time and space when we were younger, I think that really fragmented our being and disconnected ourselves from our infinite one source. And so we are scattered within these various different dimensions, if you will. So star beings are definitely family or facets of ourselves that we're trying to connect with and even heal. I know that the grays are just a version of ourselves if we continue down the road of being desensitized and mostly mind-based, the people who do animal testing kind of things, scientists like that are a little bit cold and distant. And that I feel, in even conversing with the grays, they seem to be a version of ourselves of the future that has gone down that extreme road and has come back to kind of avert it by basically showing themselves to us and speaking to our subconscious. They described it like going to an elementary school as an old man who has smoked his entire life and he has a hole in his throat, and he's like, please, don't start this or you'll end up like me. And they have a very interesting perspective on what they're doing as well. They consider themselves to be a mirror when the ones that are responsible for the more unpleasant abductions and things like that, they say, you do this to your animals, and look what you do to your animals, and look what we do to your animals, kind of a thing. And I said, still, this is, this has to stop. And they said, okay, we'll stop when you stop, kind of a thing. So really, bringing it a different kind of perspective to it, and removing judgment as well, and understanding the law of the mirror.
Right. So
taking responsibility back. But sorry, I keep going off track.
No, that's fine. Let me interject for a second with a question that's just kind of unrelated but related at the same time.
Sure.
I'm just going to go ahead and assume that you're a vegetarian then.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I am too, so that makes two of us. That's good.
Raw foodist, actually.
Oh, you're a raw foodist. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and for people who don't really understand that movement, there is a lot of natural energy, from what I understand, and science, obviously has proven this, that food, especially vegetation in its raw, purest form, does contain a higher level of energy since it is still kind of living.
Mm-hmm.
You want to grab that?
Okay, it's not mine. No, it's not my phone.
Okay. That's cool. Raw foodist. Awesome. All right. So where are we going to go from here? I guess what I should ask you now, because I know that there are some people out there who will be wondering what you mean. I mean, it's not a new term, but star seeds. Can you help us define that for us?
Yeah, usually people ask me, because I'm also, Carrie Cassidy called me a crystal child as well, and it's just a label, a stepping stone to understand a greater truth. The indigos, the crystals, the star seeds, what is the difference? And I always get asked and stuff like that. And the indigos are just that system buster aspect of ourselves, when angry at ourselves and angry at the system kind of a thing. And a lot of the kids that are in gangs and stuff like that have that indigo energy or that stubborn, rebellious energy. And we all kind of start there, I feel. It is a process. And when you start to see yourself in everyone and everything and even start to fall in love with it, it just removes judgment. And things become very transparent and crystalline. You become even more sensitive. That's more of the crystal energy, crystal children, if you will. And then with the star seeds, it's interesting because indigenous culture say we come from the stars, and Christianity says we come from Adam, and science says we come from atoms. Atom, that's awfully similar, don't you think? And where do atoms come from? There's only one place, and that is the stars. Therefore, everybody's correct, just a slight different interpretation.
Right.
I describe starseeds like the ones who are able to remember their lives on other worlds because it is within their cellular memory. It's able to come to them more easily, and they're more open to it. And again, like I said, more people as time goes by are going to be able to remember as well.
Right.
But that is what I describe as star child. And I work with a lot of mothers contact me, as parents contact me about their children remembering being on other planets and stuff like that. And so I help them to understand and work with their children in that way.
Wow, that's fascinating. How did you get involved in that kind of work?
When I started to talk about it, people, it's really interesting how people contact me. They'll find me some very different ways, and they'll just be led to me in a way. And then when they see my videos, they'll write me and they'll say, I don't know why I'm writing you. I just feel like I must. I've never done anything like this before. And so people really get guided to me. I also do a lot of dream guide work. I visit people in the dreams and I help them remember who they are and their work here on this planet as well. So a lot of the times when people see my videos, they'll recognize me from in the dream realm,
right,
working with them.
Okay.
Or because I also do a lot of etheric time travel, I'll visit people when they are younger, and they'll recognize me from when they were younger as well.
Wow. You exude.
Yeah.
I mean, from my perspective, I don't deal with this on a daily basis, but you talk about this so candidly, time travel, and I'm just blown away, and perhaps I'll come back to it, but I kind of want to just backtrack for 1 second to just go back to your quote-unquote extraterrestrial experiences. Mm-hmm. What kind of information did they give you? Now, the information that they gave you, did it kind of explain the state of our world today and where we're heading? What kind of information did you glean from them specifically?
Oh, my goodness, everything.
I'm more concerned about what is happening here on Earth right now, the construct, because I consider it a type of matrix of sorts.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I'm just saying, I consider the world sort of as a matrix, like at least two different versions of reality are playing itself out right now. The one that we're being spoon-fed through media and our 9 to 5, and the other version that's more pure, that, we're all kind of here together of one spiritual essence and growing and learning together. What was it? I mean, that's becoming kind of a common knowledge. What was it that the extraterrestrials relayed to you about this situation? Does it jive with what that you were told, or is there some other bigger picture involved here?
I always feel that everything's a stepping stone to understand a greater truth, even when we're told there's only 7 chakras. That's just to get you used to that and familiar with it until you find out there's actually a lot more chakras than that, and same with aura layers. But I really feel like the information that they have shared with me and what's happening here, the main thing is for, they call this planet something like a Harvard University for creators in training. That it's just such an honor to be here. That I've been shown memories of lives before coming to Earth. And that process of coming here and the lineup of souls that can't wait to come here and be a part of this. And, it's so baffling sometimes because it's so challenging here and there's so many horrible things that happen and souls can't wait to come here and to be a part of this. And they're so cocky and certain that they'll be able to wake up past the amnesia veil and be able to do this work and their mission. And, so it is such an honor to be here and doing this. They want us to notice and to know how much they are grateful, these beings, because they say that what we are doing here and what they are learning through us, we're helping free them of their stagnation because they also are stuck to a degree as well. And so what is happening here is not just this universe, but many universes are partaking here. This is like a biological genesis for all of them, and it's something that hasn't been done before. And so it's very exciting for them at the same time, and the acceleration of consciousness as well that they're experiencing through us.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, and they're also really wanting me to be aware of certain things in the world, to be aware of a lot of this disclosure stuff and having, I mean, if ETs come to the government, you know, it seems to me like a ruse, if you will, because it's just, I don't trust any ETs that go to our government because I don't trust our government. You know what I mean?
Yeah, most people don't.
I mean, they don't have our best intention in mind in the first place. So, I mean, even just this chemtrail business with the properties of aluminum and barium in it, well, that creates reflectors, and that's setting up something like a false alien invasion, trying to make us think that this world is worse than it actually is, and we need to be quote-unquote saved by some galactic federation or Christ. And it really is, if you think about it long enough, it's kind of really erroneous.
Right. Because
it's like we made a mess of this place and we're going to leave this place and not take responsibility. This planet has been quarantined.
Huh.
And, I mean, God has more faith in us than we have in ourselves. They always tell me that, you know, we got ourselves into this mess and they have full faith that we can get ourselves out of it.
Right.
We don't need to be bailed out. And the way we're taught to think about it is like as a little kid making a mess of their room and saying, well, I don't need to clean it up because someone else is going to clean it for me, my mom, or I'll just move to another room.
Right.
You know, so, I mean, I work with people who are on their deathbed, basically, and I'm able to turn around their health for them just by going into natural foods, raw foods, and certain kind of exercises and certain kind of relationship with themselves as well, because disease is diseasement of the mind. But what I'm getting at is if you can turn around somebody's physical body and their mind and their emotions, because all of that plays a part, and a person is a micro version of the planet.
Right. Yeah, I've always felt that way.
Right, and so we got the macro is the planet, and then beyond that is the universe, and then the cell and the atom, and God is inside us, and we are inside God, and they are constantly kind of looping, basically, right?
Right.
So, I mean, we are here to do the same thing with this planet, and to heal her, and I think that's why a lot of people right now are very much depressed or getting sick in all these different ways. They're carrying on this pain for the planet on a collective level to assist her in that way. Depressed also because they know they come here to do something very important and they just can't seem to remember what it is, or they just get so overwhelmed with all the things happening that they just forget to even begin. And but it's really interesting to see when I'm working with these beings and how it also parallels and aligns with what the children are telling me as well, and how we're able to see more than we were ever to see before. For example, nature spirits and star beings and angelics and auras. And when I talk about these things to people, like, well, that's not real. And I say, well, really, did you know that you only use 30% of your eye? So there's a heck of a lot that you're not seeing.
Right.
And that if you would look into people who have near-death experiences or people who have done things with hallucinogenic properties, they're all seeing very similar things.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, I mean, you're talking about this being like a virtual reality, and that they've explained it like that too, a virtual reality helmet where all you can see and hear is the program.
Right. Well, most of us anyway.
You take the helmet off, and then you can see your friends basically cheering you on, because you can sense and feel them around you. You just can't see and hear them, but they have a way of speaking through synchronicities, 1111, just certain kind of guidance, the way they'd like to make it very artistic and creative ways to getting our attention. This is something that is something that brings them a lot of joy, to be honest, when I talk to them about it.
Right.
They're like, let's find ways how they can meet each other in the physical kind of a thing.
Interesting.
I mean, you got in contact and so forth.
Yeah, exactly. You're a great orator, first of all. You're doing a great job. Secondly,
thank you.
Yeah.
I'm for some reason, I'm quite nervous. I don't know why. I've done so many of these.
I don't know. I'm
usually
can
a lot
be
better, actually.
You're doing great. I can be a little anxious sometimes. Maybe you're picking up on that. Have you ever considered yourself possibly? I know you said that your experiences are not so much physical, but have you ever considered that maybe you were a byproduct of some form of genetic manipulation at the DNA level? by other entities?
Yeah, I've actually looked in and stuff like that. I think we all should, because when you're speaking on a larger scale to the masses, you don't want to mislead people in any way.
Right.
Right? So I think we have a responsibility to look into things like that. And I have. And what I found that a lot of people who have been involved in stuff like that, they don't know how to connect with their joy. They don't necessarily have the best intentions for humanity and things like that. So they still have things within them that they are still working out. And I find that truth creates this kind of peace within yourself and this well-being for the world. And you see the results, too, of what it does to people, how it opens their hearts, how it makes them a better person, and how they are wanting to help others in the way that they do through kindness. And also, I mean, really just to open ourselves to the possibilities. What motivates me the most is that, we're infinite potential. So the way we're living right now is such an insult compared to how we can be living.
Exactly.
We owe it to ourselves to explore that potential. And that means having to face your fears and think that, okay, you could be crazy or you could be mind-controlled and manipulated, and you have to explore all that and find that, okay, I think that when we talk about stuff like this, people will say, you are crazy. And I say, you know what, I think that life is working really hard to help us lose our minds in a way, because we're almost shedding the mind as if, and moving to the heart. So from a head case to a heart case, where you can understand the terms absent-minded professor, mad genius, madly in love, and intelligence outside of mind, because for a long time we've been told the mind is all there is, and that's solipsism, and that's kind of erroneous too, because that's like saying the foot is all there is, and it's a part of us, and they all have to work together now. I mean, the way the world is run right now, it's so controlled to anything that there are no limits, just beliefs, and truth is stranger than fiction. They're so afraid of that, and they're making you feel that there's something wrong with you and that you're not all there if you're open to the possibilities or the experiences that you're having, and that thousands and millions of people are having similar experiences and are not settling for just, take medication and stuff like that and sedate yourself and disconnect from this. Because if you talk to shamans and wise men, they have a clear understanding of this, and they know that this is our birthright.
Right, exactly.
And so I know that I'm on the right track, and I know that all these other people are as well, and that it's the government and the system that is so afraid of us waking that they will do whatever they can to make us doubt ourselves or abandon ship, or the momentum that we are gaining and the understanding, because of this insecurity that they have. This desire to control is no different than a bully in school.
Right.
Or the Wizard of Oz, with big, impressive smoke and mirror show, but really just a frail, insecure old man behind the curtain. And the way that we're living right now, it cannot continue. It's just constantly just ridiculous injustices. I mean, down to sedating of our children right away. Why? Because they're so afraid of them and the abilities that they have, these child prodigies that are coming through, and the amount of understanding and truth they have. Are we to say that they're crazy and we're so afraid of their ideas that we need to sedate them and make them autistic? And that's
Absolutely.
right.
I hear you.
That's more crazy than what we're talking about. We're just trying to open the doors to our potential. Because I think about the Wright brothers, and they were told that, imagine the kind of ridicule that the Wright brothers must have endured, because they believed in the possibility of flight in a time that it was impossible.
Mm-hmm.
I think they must have been told they were crazy so many times, but because they believed in it, they made it a reality that has revolutionized our world to this very day. Thanks to them, all of us have the reality of flight.
Yep.
And we need people like that and pioneers like that to think out of the box, to break out of this box. We're all growing it. The children that are coming to this planet are proof of that as well. Or even Einstein, who really encouraged intangible thinking, like, what is it like to ride on a beam of light? Okay, that's really intangible, but let's merge that with something tangible like math and physics. You put that together, you have the theory of relativity, and that has revolutionized our world as well, too.
That's right.
And people said he was crazy, and people said all kinds of things about him, that he was mentally, not there because he didn't speak for a while, because he was more telepathic. So we have to, like I said, push beyond these fears and really see what they are. Well, it stands for false evidence appearing real. And I really feel that the powers that be also are just, again, that reptilian aspect that we hear about, or people seeing reptilians through David Icke's research and information. Well, we have a reptilian brain, and that reptilian brain has such... It's where all of our negative self-talk comes from, and the repetition at the same time. So it makes sense that people would see something like that. And if you look at the mythology behind this dragon, for the Chinese, for example, they have the dragon guarding the pearl, and the pearl is a symbol of love and beauty, right, of Aphrodite. And so it almost feels like the dragon is that ego, that aspect of ourself that we have to overcome and heal that relationship with ourselves in order to transcend it and go into our understanding of truth, love, and beauty, which is the pearl, which is that archetypal example of humanity and this journey that we are on that is very alchemical.
I'm going to stop you there. I think you hit the nail right on the head. And I'm going to say this because most people don't know this, but you are Canadian, like myself, and you can always count on scintillating dialogues between Canadians. I'm sorry, Americans. I'm just kidding. You're all involved too. This is you. Well, aren't you from BC?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, it's just a whole American-Canadian battle joke. It's not very funny. Anyway.
But that's just imaginary lines. It's so silly that we should be separated like that. You know, we're all family.
No, there's no... that's the joke.
If you go to some of the tribes and they say, well, these natives are crazy and heathens, you know, they have this idea that it takes a whole village to raise a child, that we should all be responsible, you know, and looking out for each other, that, you know, we shouldn't just because we have these differences, we're still the same on the inside, and we all have the same kind of feelings and thoughts and emotions and even just our beliefs as well. I feel that, I mean, it's not about agreeing to disagree or putting our differences aside or any of that, but agreeing, like realizing that all of our truths are complement and complete the bigger picture, and we need everybody. It's not about one person making the difference. Every single person we need here to do this, and everybody will awaken because they're like flower buds kind of thing blooming. We all bloom at our own time.
Jessica, let me level with you. I do a show about the paranormal. I'm totally on your page. Now listen to this. I got to cut this short because we went 46 minutes already. We never even talked about Andrew Basiago. I want you to quickly, if you can, in the next 2 to 3 minutes tops, see if you can time yourself. Talk to us.
No.
Just tell me.
I don't know if I can. Can we just go a bit longer if need be? You can cut out the cruise story if you want and stuff like that.
We'll see. Why don't you tell me about how you got involved with Carrie Cassidy? And I have to just give a little a pre-story here. First of all, the whole reason that you got interjected into media was because you started producing these videos on YouTube. The first one was called Your Message to Humanity, correct?
Correct.
And that was basically everything that we've been just talking about, your views on the world. And then, you know, you started meeting people. You've got an interesting story. You ended up in Australia. How did you end up like getting together with Carrie Cassidy on Project Camelot?
Right after I ended my job, I had an internship, and I only had so many months. And after that ended, I was kind of, I didn't want to go back because I became very psychic at that time, and I was freaking people out, if you will. So it didn't feel right within my soul. So I decided to make some videos because this is all I wanted to talk about, and I thought surely somebody out there would understand it, kind of a thing. And so once I made these videos, shortly after, just almost the next day, someone contacted me and said, I really feel like you need to have a website. And I said, I thought about that, but I can't afford it, and I have no idea how to make one. I figured you'd say that, they said, so I'll just set it up for you.
It's nice.
And next thing you know, I had a website. And then the very next day after that, someone said, I really feel like you need to come to Australia. I'll pay for everything. Just, show up. And I want you to come to this conference, this Nexus conference.
Cool.
And Carrie Cassidy, Project Camelot will be there, and the Crystal Skulls and the Ringing Cedars of Russia editors. And, the Ringing Cedar of Russia editors, I was really intrigued to meet them because I'm really involved with the Ringing Cedar books. It's something we can talk about another time because it's extremely important and a big piece of the puzzle to what's happening here. And so, anyway, a lot of the times if you would go with your mind, you would think this is crazy. There's got to be some kind of catch. This, not something that a young girl should do. But my heart said yes. My intuition said yes. So I decided to honor that and do it. And I was respected. I wouldn't have any problems of any kind. And I just started talking to people at the conference, and they were really impressed. It became like a waterfall. I had so much information to share that they started to talk to Project Camelot on my behalf and say, you have to talk to this girl. And so when I finally got to sit down and speak to Project Camelot in Australia, and they wanted my story kind of thing, they realized that, okay, we should interview this girl. And so it didn't work out for me to get interviewed in Australia, so we decided to wait till we returned back to North America. And they got in contact with me and invited me down to Sedona, where I also ended up meeting and hanging out with David Icke's ex-wife, Pamela as well.
Wow, that's cool.
So it was really interesting how when you start to follow your truth and your passion and do what you need to do rather than the 9-to-5 daily grind that disconnects you and feels like you're going upstream kind of a thing, that how things work out for you. Mm-hmm. When you just trust and surrender and do what you feel you need to do. And I also talk about that, being a living example, not just talking about these things, but living it daily, walking my talk.
So what was your conversation with Carrie Cassidy about? And did she broadcast that on Project Camelot on the website or or a podcast?
No, she did not. It was just a breakfast with Bill and Ryan, and they wanted me to kind of share my story and how I got the information. And it seemed like they couldn't. They're like, well, it seems like her story is within her message, kind of a thing. Because if they asked my message, I'd go to my story, and if they asked my story, I'd go to my message.
Right.
So they were trying to figure out the best way to bring this information out of me.
Okay.
Because I've never spoken in public in the way that they wanted me to. I just felt that very compelled to share. And I get very afraid and insecure when I share. I'm not a speaker,
right.
But when I start to talk, it gets so passionate that all that other stuff just takes a back seat.
I hear you.
And I guess they really could relate, and they saw that, okay, this is something very different than what they usually interview, right? They usually have whistleblowers and people in black ops and stuff like that. They don't really have young girls on the show, right? And I really wanted them to talk more about solutions and interview younger people and stuff like that.
Okay.
That was the reason that I wanted to be interviewed or be on that. I had no idea who Project Camelot really was around that time too. It was just everybody kept talking to me and said you should be interviewed by these people, and I'm like, well, who are they, kind of a thing. So
very cool. And that probably segues into how you met Andrew Basiago, I guess. Was it the Nexus conference in Australia?
No, actually. No. I met Andrew Basiago when I was invited to speak at James Gilliland's ranch. It was one of my first conferences. And Alfred and Andrew were there, and they were doing their conference. And Andrew just nonchalantly said, oh, when I went to Mars, or when I teleported to Mars, or something nonchalant like that, and continued talking about, they're doing their conference.
Right.
And I'm like, huh? What? Excuse me? Yeah. Checking my ears for a second, and then at the end there was questions and answers, and people were like, what, did you really go to Mars, and what's this about, kind of a thing. And so anyway, after his conference, I saw him sitting down at a table, and there were people gathered around him listening to him talk, and this man was speaking for almost like 14 hours straight, and because we were there for a couple days, and his throat was very, very tired and raspy, and I was just very fascinated by what he was sharing, and I thought, the world needs to hear about this. It's really important. And I asked him about that. He said, no one will interview me. They're not taking it seriously. And I was just like, okay, that's interesting. Well, I'll interview you. And it was kind of just, at first, we were just playing around. Had I known that interview would have over 1 million hits and would end up putting him on Coast to Coast and opening all these doors for him, we would have been a lot more serious in some ways, because, we were eating during the interview and all that. And when he talks, he really doesn't need somebody to interview him. I felt like I just had to get him started, and because I thought it was going to be an interview where I could ask questions, but there was never an opportunity to ask questions, kind of a thing. And I felt like I was interrupting or overlapping him. So I'm like, I'm just going to let this guy talk as much as he wants. When I do interviews, I don't like that I have a time limit, because I find that the gold sometimes happens when they're taken off the pedestal, and it's just more of a relaxed conversation, rather than an interview kind of a thing, and they can share whatever they want to share, however, and that's when the magic happens. And so I decided to do that with him, and when I finally put it up, it was amazing, the kind of response I got, and I'm still in contact with him, and he now I interviewed Laura Eisenhower, who is also a part of his team, and William Stillings is next I'll be interviewing, and then some other people that have come forward because of that interview. So a lot of people weren't sure of his credibility, but, well, how come there is all these other kids that are, coming forward and say, this has happened to me too? Oh, my goodness, I was a part of this. Yeah, so it started to trigger people's memories, and I was sure if I interviewed him that we would find other people as well who had similar experiences. That was part of the idea as well.
So I get the impression...
To feel not so alone and to have someone to contact and talk to about.
Right, exactly. So from what I understand, I can assume that you believe Andrew's story.
I do.
And you know what? I tried to contact Laura and Andrew both for an interview, and neither one of them replied. I think they've been getting some slander from the media, but that's not what I want to do here. Maybe you can pass on a good word. I just want to hear the story.
Oh, I absolutely could get you on the show. Get them on the show. That's not a problem. I mean, they asked me to interview all 5 of them together.
Cool. Oh, wow.
And I'm quite honored because, like I said, I'm not a professional. You watch my videos; they're extremely raw. I don't edit my videos. They are what they are, kind of a thing. And sometimes my audio isn't the best, my video isn't the best, and yet people watch it all the way through. If I write blogs that are 50, 60 pages, people read them not once, not twice, but 3 times.
Right.
So I feel very honored that of all the people they could get interview them, they choose to have me. And so I will do the best I can and the most justice I can with it.
That's great.
So, but I also have helped them get interviews on other shows too, and just, get them more recognition, because what they are doing is extremely important. I mean, people need to know that this is a reality, and this has been happening for a long time. And not to get angry, but just to realize, who are you that they're keeping this information, and how do you access this within yourself, that we, start to take back our power rather than giving our power away to people who don't have our best intention in mind.
Right.
Right? I mean, the way we're living, like I said, is such an insult compared to how we can be living. If bilocation is possible, and here we are dealing with traffic and bills and all this ridiculous stuff harming the environment, and it doesn't have to be this way. We're going the long, harder route. Why?
Yeah.
Because we're so stubborn, and so if we're like, no, it's not true. I'm sorry, I just can't.
I know. I'm completely...
And we owe it to ourselves. My children are going to ask me about this time and say, what did you do? I'm not going to tell them I twiddled my thumbs.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell my children I did everything I could to make this world the best place I can.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I had kind of the similar revelation around the same period of time in my life. You were about 16. I was about the same, 15, 16, when I kind of recognized that, I had just pulled the curtain down from this grand parade, and I was really upset. And I'm not so much upset anymore as frustrated. And my frustration kind of manifests as passion for wanting to talk to people like you. I know you can understand this. So that's why we're here today. But we only have a few minutes left, and I do want to maybe just, for the listeners, can you give a quick synopsis of who Andrew Basiago is? You sort of covered a little bit of the fact that, he said he's been to Mars, but there's been this new update, where he says he's been to Mars not only with the head of DARPA, the current head of DARPA, years ago through this jump room, but also a guy named Barry Soetoro, who's Barak Obama, and Alfred Weber is involved, obviously. They're all kind of connected, and their story has been ripped apart for obvious reasons. It sounds so fantastic, and you can't uncover the credibility. But it's such an entertaining story, and but how can we prove it one way or the other? I think it's a great story.
It's consistency. If you listen, that is a lot of stuff to keep track of, and I find a lie is very difficult to remember. Mm-hmm. Even a story, even implants and things like that, after a while they can't hold it and it starts to be askew. Andrew has still so much more to share as well as people get ready. And also, the people who are sharing this kind of information, I want to add that we have people paid to slander us and attack our websites and put all kinds of things in it. I've had this happen as well. David Wilcock has had this happen, and we have it happen at the same time.
Right.
So they're trying to get us to stop or scare us, intimidate us, and we won't, because we know how important this information is.
Right.
And and also there is this aspect where it comes to a point you've got to ask your heart and your core what is true and what is not, despite what everybody else is saying. Mm-hmm. Sooner or later, you have to face yourself and look inside. And just like when I work with people and I know that they don't necessarily agree with what I'm saying, I speak to that part of them, their soul, that knows the truth.
Right.
And they usually start to weep, and they remember when they were kids, when they were able to see nature spirits and how they blocked that from themselves because they were told it's not normal and they need to grow up and be accepted and be loved and all this kind of stuff, psychological aspect that goes with it.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this, and this is from a purely journalistic perspective, and it's not personal. So do you believe that Andrew Basiago has gone to Mars?
Me personally, actually, I do believe it.
Okay.
I do.
Why don't you give the people just a backdrop on what happened? How did he get there? Just from what you remember from the interview, it was a long time ago, and I know you still talk to him. But you know the story. Don't make it long, but just a quick synopsis, right?
I don't know if I can do that.
If you can, because his story is huge.
Yeah, and I can't even keep track of it all, but I just...
In a nutshell, because I want to give these people something to chew on.
The consistency of it and the confirmation from other people who have been involved in this project and said, you know what, Obama was there. There's just certain things that just align so perfectly. And when you know that just how much truth is stranger than fiction, that Star Trek and things like that were inspired by actual, true things happening. But how did he do it? I understand that they get recruited as children. I find that a lot of people who are in the military, their children get recruited for specific kind of government projects. All different kinds of things, even like the Plum Island long-fingered experiment, long-fingered human experiment and stuff like that. It's just a consistency with me as well that when I come across with people, this is usually, oh, okay, really? And then I find out that their parents were in the military or something, and I'm like, okay, interesting. Mm-hmm. But so he was recruited by his parents at a very young age. And because children are using 100% of their brain, they're very psychic, so their psychic abilities are being developed. They found that children are easier to time travel and teleport because as adults, our minds already are set. And a lot of times they go crazy through that experience, so they need to work with a fresh palette. And so he was selected. I don't know how to say this. He just was selected to time travel to the past, the Battle of Gettysburg, the future, 2013 and 2040, and also to go to Mars. And what he has seen and experienced on Mars is also consistent with a lot of other people who have been to Mars as well, claim to be on Mars. So you can't deny that. You can't discount that.
Okay.
That speaks volumes too.
I think maybe...
Or through...
No,
Sorry?
No, go ahead, Jessica. Sorry.
And I was also saying through people who've had hypnosis experiences as well, through Dolores Cannon, people who have been on Mars and stuff like that. The memories that come up and the things that they saw and how it's run and how it works is, again, consistent with Andrew Basiago.
Mm-hmm. Right. I think a lot of the problem these days, too, is whether or not the person is credible or not, I think people are just beginning to grasp at the fact that the fantastic is entirely possible. Mm-hmm. And we're almost fighting with ourselves to believe it with or without the credibility factor. Do you agree?
Fair enough, yeah.
And we're only just beginning to wake up to a much vaster universe than we were ever taught about. On purpose.
Sorry, I interrupted. Cool.
No, I'm just saying on purpose, it's an obvious means of control when you limit the amount of information that you disseminate into the populace, obviously. So we're starting to realize that the great disclosure, and it's not, I'm not the focus of this interview, but I share similar perspectives. The great disclosure is coming from us. It's not coming from any entity. It's like the children are growing up and are now in we can take full advantage of leaving the nest and create the possible future that you're talking about.
That's right. And Einstein said imagination is more important than knowledge. Why? Because he knew that imagination was a big part of a reality.
Yeah, manifestation.
That we had to create. And also why, the problems of today cannot be solved with the same thinking of yesterday. So if we want to solve these problems, if we sincerely want to do something about it, we have to push ourselves out of the box.
Right.
And we have to listen and connect with our inner child and what we knew at that time, because all of us, when we were born, we know exactly who we are and what we came to this planet to do.
Right.
And then the conditioned programming sets in, and then we start to forget. But the universe doesn't forget, and it finds a time to trigger and create your memories. Because I know that when I've talked about this, I've been made fun of, and then when when those people get their trigger, they contact me right away and they apologize and they say, I'm so sorry. I need somebody to talk to who understands this, and I know you do. And so, I mean, we all have our time to bloom, like I said.
Well, you know what? I came into this interview a little unsure about how it was going to go. I thought we were going to put a lot of the focus on Andrew and your encounter there. And your story is so vast, and you're very intelligent, and you're inspiring, and you're insightful, and you're doing a lot of great work out there. And what I want to do is, I think we'll leave it at that, because I think that will entice enough people to go search for the Andrew Basiago interview, and specifically from you, and hear your interview. Your website's jessicamystic.com. I want everyone to go visit if you've enjoyed the interview, or even just to peruse, because all of her videos are up there. She's a lovely individual, and I want to thank you for helping to express your feelings and your experiences with us on Unified Field Radio, Atlantic Canada's only paranormal expanding consciousness, new science radio, locally and now all over our lovely earth. So Jessica Schab, a.k.a. Jessica Mystic, I want to thank you so much for being with us.
You're very welcome, and thank you. I really am quite taken aback with this interview, because you have gotten to you got me out of my repetition. And when we do interviews, as many times as we do, we fall into having to repeat things, because so it's so nice to step out of that and share new things and a new perspective. So you do a fantastic job of coming from a journalistic, devil's advocate approach. And I think that will reach and help so many because of it. So you're doing wonderful work. Thank you so much.
So that was Jessica Schab. She is trying to usher in a new sort of mindset for the youth of the 21st century. Do you think it's hokey? Maybe. Do you think it's flaky? Possibly. Is there any truth to what she's saying? Absolutely. There was a lot of truth, and I know that some of this stuff resonates with a lot of you. Some of it resonates with me. Not all of it. But I think it's enough to entice you to think, to ask deeper questions, and have a better look at the world around you. Now, what we didn't get to in that interview, actually, was what was coming up for Jessica Schab. But luckily, I got the tape rolling just in time, because she's traveling all over the world, and, well, let me just let her tell you herself on what's going on in the future.
It's very Indiana Jones-esque, I know, but there is a spring in Ecuador that people who live by it, they don't get old, they don't get sick, and they are very, very happy. Mm-hmm. I want to explore that and document that and let the world know about it. And I wanted people to know how I travel as well. I mean, I live pretty much off of donation, and just last minute, I get guided to go somewhere, and I just go where people invite me or have me stay with them and their family, kind of a thing. So I'll be going to Costa Rica and looking at some eco communities, Anastasia kind of like. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. The Ringing Cedars of Russia books again. Eco communities,
cool.
I said, and raw food communities where Tony Robbins' son likes to go a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And where else? South Africa.
Holy smokes.
To meet some tribes. Tanzania, Kenya, and South Cape Town. And then to do some conferences and workshops in Singapore, Malaysia, in Bali, Indonesia, Australia, and south of India. I got invited to Japan, but I'm not sure if I can fit it in.
So there you go. She's a busy lady. She's going to be traveling all over the world and spreading her own version of the gospel, whether you like it or not. Very interesting stuff. I want to thank Jessica Schab for coming on the show, and also I want to thank her for giving me some contacts of a few people that I've been harassing to come on the show, and sometimes you just have to find the right channel to tune into to make it all happen. So thanks to Jessica Schab, and if you want to learn more about her, go to jessicamystic.com and look at all the old videos she's posted and see the future work coming. The Andrew Basiago interview, I'm sure you can link to it from there. I wasn't really looking for it the last time I was on there, but it's on YouTube, and you can also go into the archives, and if you haven't heard any of the old shows, there's a segment on each episode I think of the first 4 or so. So you can see those there. But fascinating story, very highly entertaining. You'll love it. You won't be disappointed. Don't go in there looking to prove anything. Go in there to be excited and entertained, because it's a really cool story. I want to thank you all for being here. This is the last show of the season, so we won't be on the air in 2 weeks. But you can look for us in April with an amazing premiere episode of Season 4. We made it again, and I've got a big guest lined up for the first show. I'll tell you all about it. Stay tuned to the Facebook page.com/Unified Field Rad and unifiedfieldradio.com to find out all the exclusives on who's going to be on the show, what's coming up, and all the archives. Go in there right now for the Jim Strait interview. He sent me a book in the mail. It's called Deja Vu All Over Again. And as soon as I finish with Mac Maloney's book, I'm going to dive into that because he wants me to write a little review for Amazon. One last note, don't miss us too badly here on CKDU, because every single Sunday night you can tune into Ufonaut Radio at blogtalkradio.com/Ufonaut, where we talk about exopolitics, new science, and beyond, all those things that you don't hear around the water cooler every Sunday night, 12 a.m. Atlantic Standard Time, 8 p.m. Pacific, Ufonaut Radio. So thank you all for being here once again. Keep your eyes on the sky, and you may just be surprised. It may expand you into the infinite or shrink you down to size. I'm Mr. Justin Brown. This is the Unified Field, and you're listening to CKDU 88.1 FM. Until next time, ciao. We'll see you next season.
UnifiedFieldRadio.com